Welcome everyone to the monthly Q&A with TB. Today I'm joined with Mukman, Kaminari, and Jesus. Just like the Q&As we've done in the past, I'm going to answer their questions with the exception that I won't give any spoilers of anything that is yet to be written. So if you're caught up, good for you. With that in mind, I'm going to turn it to you guys, and what's your first question?
Alright, well I guess I'll start. Kaminari. What was your inspiration for the setting of Terradicia, the Purge? That I've always been intrigued by that.
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. That's actually a really long answer. So, I was when I first started out on film fiction, I was reading a bunch of fics like Fallout Equestria, My Second Life, Past Sins, and I had the general consensus that every story just kind of accepted that there were ponies. I hadn't read a story where they really had it like, oh, this is their origin story. This is what, like, even if it was like this is their belief and this is how they believe they were made. I never saw one with that. It's always just this assumed existence. And then at the same time, I had an idea for an HIE, but in my head, I couldn't see why a human and a pony would exist in the same world without this long stretch of cultural and scientific explanations. And through process of elimination and my own picking, I developed how we would go from today to a society that could do that, and then how it would go from that society to just ponies. Yeah. I took the really long route to make a backstory.
Yeah, I just thought it was so in depth that it had to have been drawn from like other like fiction, but like the more you get into it, the more you realize it's just totally unique and some stuff we haven't really seen before.
Oh, thank you.
And that's what drew me to the story.
I definitely, because before I started it, I was gonna do a Fallout Equestria story as like a practice run, because I just wanted to see how I could do writing. I'm really glad I didn't do that because I just started with Man of War and I just went with it, and it was the one I really wanted to do, and I'm glad I stuck with it this long.
I'm glad too. The one thing that always confused me though was like why this guy Jesus always kept popping up in the story. Who's this asshole?
Yeah, it's like where the hell did he come from?
Jesus, do you want to answer that one since you know why?
Well, it's mainly just because we decided to throw ourselves in, right?
So,
like he was just like, all right, we're idiots. Let's kind of expand upon that.
Yeah, is because before I started writing the story, I went to my friends and I was like, I have an idea for a story. Here's the general idea. What do you think of this? And I have like the right group of friends for them to go, that's awesome. But what about this, this, and this? And we should totally throw in this dick joke. And like, I don't know, they helped me like culture it a bit and pursue it. Though I know we all had fun doing it, as Jesus and Squishy can attest to. We'd go to Walmart at 12 at night, won't leave until 7 a.m. And then the entire time we're just discussing the story.
One day we were there for one dude's entire shift, and like every time he was on break, he'd show up and just hang out with us.
Oh, he was awesome.
You're like, what are you guys talking about? Ponies. He's like, alright, that's weird, but okay.
I'm pretty sure we were like the highlight of his shift at Walmart.
Yeah.
Mukman, do you have a question? Okay, let's go to Matt then. I know you had like several questions lined up.
Yeah, well, I guess we're not going in any order because I can't remember what I was going to ask next. But going back to Jesus and your group, one of the things that I kind of was irritated with, like when it first appeared, was the adventures of TB and Jesus and their epic quest to
find a burrito.
Get some cheeseritos.
No, it wasn't Doritos.
So-
It was a burrito.
So, like I was saying earlier, we would hang out all the time to discuss. Like, it wouldn't even be to discuss the story. We would just hang out and then somehow start talking about the story, and then it would always end with us going to this restaurant down the road and getting burritos because SoCal. That's what we do.
And then
at one point,
you guys too. That one time, that's hilarious.
And then I realized I was like, this should be part of the story one night. And then we all sat down. And the first few sections of those were me literally typing everything that everybody was saying. To which Squishy determined that he had to write Pinky.
So I do have a question, though. How hard is it to write Pinky as a fourth wall breaker character?
She's one of the hardest characters to write because... So your gut instinct is to go as wacky tackler as possible and just like throw all the slapstick and all that, and you just because that's how she comes off as a lot of times, and you can't do that too much to a certain degree because it's irritating. So
and it breaks your story.
It does.
It's like, why didn't you just have Pinky do it?
And then
it's like that's overpowered characters.
Well, and that's part of Pinkie Pie and writing her is you got to really determine how you want your Pinkie Pie to function. So my Pinkie Pie is a little special in that because all the characters I try to think out their traits and their quirks and how they function, in general. And with Pinky, I came to the conclusion that there's only 3 Pinkie Pies in all existence. There's the pony, the anthro, the human. And then I was like, okay, so if Pinky is the same Pinky in every single story, how would she act? And then I was like, then I came to the thought, she probably wouldn't give a fuck about my story. So then, like she goes through and does it because she's not a complete ass, but she's done this, 1,000, 2,000, however many stories involve Pinky on FimFiction is long. So I just imagined her at certain points just breaking the wall. Or actually at one point, I had her appear in one of the scenes and she starts yelling at the main character, and I actually talked to another writer and asked them for a list of things that Pinky would be mad about at their main character. And then the joke was that she came into my story thinking she was in a different story.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, it was
that was from the
she thought she was in Diaries of a Madman.
Yes, I do like that story though. Sorry.
Which if you haven't read, read it.
I'm sorry, I do confuse the two stories sometimes.
I get so many comments.
Why is Luna in here? She's an asshole, and
oh shit, wrong story.
Just like, oh shit, yeah, she's the wife in this one. She's the waifu.
She's the waifu.
That's a crazy bitch.
I'll get a ton of comments being like, oh, this story and this story, and they're always comparing between the two. And I remember when I was writing that, I asked him, do people talk about my story on your story? And he's like, a little bit. He's a nice guy though. He actually helped me edit one of my chapters and taught me some stuff that I was doing wrong that I continue to do wrong, but now I have people to help me.
Nice.
Sweet.
So he's a cool guy.
I do kind of like the dynamic that his character is sort of kind of Discord, and then your character is kind of like the anti-Discord. So it's there's differences, but there's similarities to the two stories, and it's completely opposite directions that they're going in.
I remember talking to someone about that, and they said the main difference between the two stories is you have no clue how that story is going to end, versus my story. You can kind of guess how it's going to end, and you can kind of see how it's going to get there, but you don't...
Everyone's going to die. I'm kidding.
Well, you did a lot of epic foreshadowing in the past, so it's kind of obvious where it's going. Whereas he did one big epic foreshadowing and then just said, let's go. And that was it. And you kind of know what's supposed to happen in that story, but you don't really, because it's Discord. And what is Discord thinking?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Or everything.
And this one, no, Discord's an asshole, and
and he gets his ass kicked. And the elements of chaos ripped from him. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes! About that.
Well, let's move to the next question before we get to the first time I had to slap one of you on the wrist.
Hey.
All right, Mukman, you've I know you've got some stuff. Let's go.
All that stuff.
All that stuff. It's like everything. So, I know you kind of put in a little summary on the actual story of what Arc 5 is, but as a standing joke in the story, tell us about Arc 5.
You know what's funny is for April Fools, I put up the description for that, and I was supposed to take it down. And then when I was going to go do it, I realized that if I did that, I probably wouldn't remember it. Even if I put its own special document somewhere, I would somehow lose that document. So out of fear of losing it, it's just going to stay up there forever.
Nice. Until you actually came out with Arc 5.
Until I actually start Arc 5, and then it can stay there because, yeah, we're on Arc 5.
So no one knows what Arc 5 is. You hear that, guys? That little saying right there? It's not real.
No one knows. It's not real. It's not... I can guarantee... I am extremely optimistic that no one will suspect what is going to happen in Arc 5 until...
Arc 5.
Until Arc 5. And even then, the first chapter will kind of throw some people through a loop. That's what I'm hoping. I might be overzealous, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Well, let's go back to the beginning of the story.
Okay.
Before I ask you any questions, did you have any questions about that, Mukman?
So, how'd you get to the Spartans? Like, how'd you first imagine them? Like, what made you think of a group of soldiers that were just above and beyond, like, everyone else and decided that it doesn't matter what the whole society thinks. If something's wrong, they're going to try to fix it. Like, if someone's trying, like a dictator comes in and tries to conquer everybody, they're going to take out the dictator or something like that. They're trying to, instead of just staying with that whole area, they're just basically their own little group going off.
So basically, how did I make up the Spartans?
Yeah.
So, when I was first going through the setting of how we would get to ponies, I came to like, so when you're writing a setting, a lot of it can be forced. You can say this is this way because it turned out this way. And when I was thinking about how the society would start doing certain things, I was kind of caught in a rut because I couldn't see a society that advanced, that so inwardly thought focused, making creatures to be slaves. So there had to be some kind of force that would push them, that wouldn't have that moral alignment. Because like typically speaking, the smarter you are, the more cultured you are, the less inclined you are to do certain things. Typically. So with that, I thought, well, first off, something would have to unify these people back together. It would have to erase all former ties of nationality, culture, religion. It'd have to cut all that back. It would also have the willing force to do what is necessary. And so they started off as like a city-state. They didn't even start out as soldiers. And then in my head, I said city-state, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, well, okay, so they're basically the Spartans, like in ancient ancient Greece. Oh, so smart. And then I started playing with that idea a bit, and I kind of like, I saw how that could work, because that's what they were in history. They were the slave-holding state. They were the most advanced military. They were the first to respond. So I really took a lot of inspiration from them, and then I saw that they would too.
So how'd you come up with the training then? A whole Spartan training, that 1 month thing.
So the training centered around the cause to become, and that is actually my kind of like meta joke about heroes. Heroes in in movies, animes, and whatever TV. For the most part, of course, there are always exceptions, but for the most part, they always have something pushing them. Like, they're trying to reunite their family, or they're trying to become the greatest swordsman. They have some driving force. They're not Joe Schmo who was a farmer and they put a sword in his hand.
I see you ripping Zoro there.
Ripping what? Oh, yeah.
No, reference Zoro.
Oh, yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Swordsman. Yep.
I'm smart
Got it.
sometimes. Yeah, no, but like that was my realization as heroes, that they all had something worth fighting for. So then the Spartans are the people who would see people with those things worth fighting for and utilize that, or at least
I gotta say though,
their hidden potential kind of thing.
as my work, whatever the job that I do, as being a Marine myself, I would say that if they actually was Spartan training, I would actually like to do that personally. Like, I know it doesn't sound easy at all. It sounds pretty difficult, but I still would do it.
I remember when I was researching, because for like most things, I did a lot of research. So when I was researching the Spartans and the things they would do with their training, I started looking up all sorts of videos of like Ranger trainings regimen, it was Marine training regiment, Special Forces, stuff like that.
I really got that vibe. Like reading through this training, I was like, this is like what I've read.
And of course, it's easy to do though.
Yeah, like SEAL training and stuff.
Yeah. So there is actually a lot of inspiration from that. I was originally gonna have them take pet chickens throughout the training. At the end of it, they had to snap their necks. But I couldn't get Miles to do that because his society didn't have chickens.
Dude, you see, I don't remember where like, I don't know which military. None of ours I know does that.
It's the
does
Russian,
anything like that where they take a little thing. Like I know there's a joke between military members.
That was in the Black Hat movie. They were given a dog at the beginning of their training, and they were told that this was your partner, this was your family, and you had to take care of him. And then at the end of the training, your job was to kill your dog.
It was from that and I saw a video about the Russian Spetsnaz did that too.
Mm.
Yeah, it was the like spycraft. It was like you have to be able to kill your closest friend and your partner to serve your country, kind of thing.
So, had I made a society with chickens, that scene would have been in it.
Yeah, but you had to make them have like processed food paste. You can't really get over emotional over processed food paste. You must take care of this mushroom.
To be fair, that mushroom's gonna feed like a couple million people, so. You had a question, Kunamari?
Kaminari, yes. Actually, it was in reference to the maternity leave. I mean, on paper, that seems like such a great thing, taking 4 years off whenever somebody had a kid or something. But like, if half your force, over 4 years, has a family and whatnot, it severely hampers the fighting force.
The maternity leave, it's explained a little in the story. The maternity leave is only acceptable in certain periods of alertness. So, like, you remember how they had the Order 23, the enemy at the gate? If you were on maternity leave, you were no longer on maternity leave. You came back. It depends on how severe the situation around them is. It determines how much they actually get to leave.
No, I see. So yeah, it's like, you're on maternity leave, but then like you could be called back at any time.
Yeah,
which is why currently Luna and Miles is fighting.
Yes. Well, kind of. She's more mad about him not letting her be as involved as she could be. At least that's how I'm trying to portray it.
Okay, that leads into the one big thing that I really wanted to talk about. What is with the 20-year alicorn fertility bullshit?
Okay, so That actually goes. You can blame the Purge for that. So when the Alicorns were engineered, they were sort of they were attempting to make the perfect being to perform certain tasks because they had certain major catastrophes. Like the Earth stopped moving. They had to have something that would willingly do that. That would like make the Earth move again. And
godlike being.
Yeah, something like that. So they were trying to get as close to that as possible. But they also realized that if they made a creature that powerful, that it could very easily turn on them. Which they did. But they were afraid that they would overpopulate and take out humanity. So they made sure that they had a very small, brief gestation period. Availability, I guess. So that's actually, and a lot of things when you see certain things about like ponies, griffins, goblins, a lot of that is from the Purge about the and it's about how the humans influenced them. So that
I just found like it weird that it was like, okay, you have a window of like 20 years, as opposed to you only go into heat every 5-10 years, or what have you.
Well, these beings were engineered to live for very long periods of time. So even if it was only every 5 years, this being doesn't live 100 years. It lives 200, 300 years. So that, multiplied, you got a population control problem then. So the better period would be, okay, once it hits maturity, it can make offspring. We can manage that. Then they focus on their work.
I can see that. It's just that what happens if there's a population die-off?
Well, with them, they would just make more. It was just more cost-effective to make them birth more.
Guess the humans didn't foresee themselves not being in the picture anymore. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, you don't really plan to not be there.
Well, I thought it was the idea was to like let them go into the wild and do their thing while humanity hides and like.
Well, at the time of their creation, human society wasn't hiding.
Dun, dun, and then they ran away.
Yeah.
It's like we've done it. We've made our saviors. It's like we don't like you. We're going away. No.
Well, like one part they're mad, the other part, the sun started moving, so they're doing that. They have to live as much as we do, so it's a win-win. We just lost our big shiny toy.
Lol.
Yeah. Humanity creating big shiny toys and then losing them.
Yeah, we can make black holes on Earth. It's a good idea. Muffmon, did you have another question?
I had one. Let me see if I can remember it.
He can't remember it. Good job.
I'm sorry.
Should have wrote it down.
Hey, you barely wrote anything down, so I don't want to hear it.
What about you, Jesus? You got any comments?
If he has a question, I'd be thoroughly surprised.
Well, that's why I asked if he had a comment, because, he's probably...
Not really, well, this is a Q&A for you guys. If any comment I'd have to make would be on something that I kind of influenced in the story that you guys would bring up,
Which I'm sure there are plenty of people who would, but...
okay, all right, then if that's the case, so why the broken horn and the, dying figure? I kind of know why, but I just figure, you want to share that for the audience.
Oh, Jesus, that's you.
That's mainly just because of me and all my ridiculous medical problems. The broken horn would probably be to kind of amplify the fact that sometimes my limbs don't work. And I know TV here has been in the car with me when I was driving, and my foot decided that the gas was the brake pedal.
That was not a fun day.
Yeah,
the Cheez-Its and Squishy from the story are jokes, but influenced by Squishy and Cheez-Its from real life. Like, our Squishy in real life, when he shaves, if you looked at him from behind, he looked like a girl. So that was one of the jokes about him, is that Squishy acted like a girl to play off on that. We also always make fun of him for being a whore. So, of course, in the story, he turned out to be a whore, and then thus Jesus, the pimp, was born.
Nice.
And of course, a number of their gay sex jokes is because, well, we constantly make gay sex jokes. All the time.
All the
Well,
time.
who doesn't make gay sex jokes all the time? I'm joking.
To be fair.
A lot of people do.
To be fair. Did you think of that question?
So, with Miles, why is he so fucking overpowered? Like, he's just like extremely overpowered to the point of where it's like, what the fuck?
So,
Well, I mean, he created the elements of harmony,
Yeah, that too.
so
for example.
a lot of why he's powerful will be explained later. I've given a few hints. Mainly Soulfire will give the hints about why they are so powerful, why he is so powerful, but it really doesn't come through until like towards the end of the story. Then you get some better glimpses at it. I'm not gonna like directly say why. I kind of want to make it sort of vague. So I'm hoping the like.
So it's still a surprise for those who haven't guessed it.
It's if you want to know, I want you to be looking for the answer, and I want to make it a little easy to find, but like it's gonna be there. It's just not now, because I don't like giving answers to questions out of place. So if I were to, because right now as of this, the chapter just came out where Miles kind of goes dark and chops that one dude's balls off because of the whole scandal thing. That would be a really weird place for Soulfire to suddenly go, oh, by the way, your power is this reason, that way. So there really has to be a setting toward that answer to come up, and it doesn't really appear until towards the end. So sorry, but that's a spoiler until then. I've given some clues, but
well, we can conjecture for now. Like, for example, we know his dad was of some notable power before him. You know, there's also the the time thing. You know, where Luna came back in time and met him beforehand. And then there's Discord before he was Discord, messing with Miles and enhancing his powers and whatnot. So there's a lot of
he wasn't enhancing his powers. He was trying to stop him. That's why he put the restraints on him.
That's why I say messing with, because
okay.
It wasn't like
I heard enhanced.
Yeah. I mean, the thing was he was trying to harness some of it. That's why he made him make the elements of chaos.
Altum Stans, which is what his name was, I always viewed him as the person who wanted more than he had, and if someone else had that, he didn't want them to have it. That's how I viewed him when I was first writing him. So that's why he pushed what he pushed.
So there's all sorts of different clues as to Miles' hidden powers.
Yeah, they're
Another thing.
clues.
Oh,
go ahead.
Another thing. Well, I know Luna can turn into a human, and I'm pretty sure Tempesta will be able to one day, maybe, and maybe most Alicorns might, depending on their influence of the soul. But will there be any other natural humans? Because I know that scientist made a time machine once. Who says that in one of the cities that they went to that he didn't make another one and transported another person a little bit further in time?
Well, a thing to consider about that is the state of those cities when they arrived. And I gave some clues about how they were treated as refugees and how long they were in each of the cities. He wouldn't have the... supposedly, he wouldn't have the time to do it. But,
are we talking about Star Swirl or...
No. We're talking about Professor
the doctor
Kui.
who, made the time machine, basically.
Yeah, Professor Kui, who is Professor Who in Latin, because I'm smart like that.
Whose brother is the crazy pony?
No. So,
Wait a minute.
So the question then is
Mr. Who, so Doctor Who, so he's Mr. Who's like,
So no, I'm just gonna flat out say that
kidding.
no, he's not that character.
I know.
But
just
there really wouldn't be much time for him to do it because of how sophisticated that is, the resources he would need, and how society was reacting to, losing. But it's theoretical, but we'll see.
Well, technically, every pony is a human.
Well,
because they're the remnant of humanity. They're as much human as like we are Neanderthal.
Well, we aren't Neanderthal. Well, some would say we're not Neanderthal. Some would say we are very little bit Neanderthal. Depends on who you ask.
And others would say we just came from fucking monkeys.
Yeah. Oh. Because some fucking monkeys were fucking, and then along the way we came along.
Yeah.
Humanity's a freak like that. They're like, oh look, you've got like arms
I
and
could
a
put
head
my
and
penis in that.
I could exactly.
I must have came
look,
from you.
it had a kid. Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, bye. Anyway.
Yeah. Enough with the bestiality shit. Okay.
Okay. We'll move on. Matt or Kunumari, what's your next question?
Well, since we covered some of the early aspects of the story, I guess we could go on to the why.
You almost got it. It's there.
Yeah, first word out.
I can hear it. It's almost there.
No, why the Griffin colonies? Why is war sparking conflict in the Griffin colony?
I guess I can answer. I guess I can answer that. So war works for Death. Death has a plan, and even War has pointed out to Death that they amassed an army that could take out the Griffin colonies, but Death doesn't want to do that. The state of the Griffin colonies, as of now in the chapters, is they can't. No plant life can grow there currently. They have all that acid rain. They have to solely focus. All their food is imported. The Spartans, or Teradicians rather, are trying to give them aid, but they're a little cautious about giving them too much because they don't want. Because they also, for multiple reasons, the Croth, they want them to be independent, and they don't like giving out handouts and yada yada. So why would War be sparking all that? Because he's being ordered by Death, and well, even though he believes he's so powerful, Death is Death, so he listens to him. Now, to lead that question in is, why is Death doing that? Well, as you can see, it's causing a lot of trouble globally. Rather than focusing on a single nation, he's thinking about how to play the entire world. So, with that in mind, as we've seen, they're gearing up for a fight because they are going bankrupt. They can't afford to not grow their own food, and so they simply are being forced into a war they don't want.
Well, culturally speaking, when you can't afford to feed your army, usually that means you need to disband your army. But obviously, the Griffins don't want to do that. So
there's multiple reasons why they wouldn't do that. I see them as having a long culture of being militaristic. So disbanding your army like that would be, to them, very dishonorable, very weak, very submissive. Also, so they're receiving all this aid, and they know, and day one, the acid rain starts falling. They would know that they would have to start making plans and contingency plans and contingencies to those contingencies. So, but you can't really make a plan against another nation without having an army. So, even though I took that 6-year gap, they've been planning this for a long time, and they're just waiting for the right moment.
Yeah, it was sort of inevitable from the beginning. Once they got the acid rain started to fall. Okay, if you could answer this one. So why has the environment stayed so toxic?
Oh,
I mean, I would think, if you brought in, fresh, water and whatnot, rather quickly you would be able to, like, dilute the toxins.
Well, the issue is that so the acid. This is going to be explained relatively soon, so I'll go ahead and answer this one. The acid rain has been persisting for 6 years. The clouds themselves can't form naturally. They keep forming as acid clouds, which then shits on the country. So the issue is not the water that's being turned into rain. It's the clouds themselves. So as people are trying to identify what is doing that and remove it, they can't seem to find it. They can't identify it. Actually, Miles talks about this a little bit recently, I believe. He can't find the acid in the acid rain, which is the big problem.
So it just keeps regenerating the acid clouds.
Yeah, the clouds, when they form, turn to acid clouds. They can't stop that from happening, and then they can't remove it either.
It sounds like it's an enchantment of some sorts.
Yeah.
But one that they can't be detected using normal means.
Yeah,
and that's the big issue there. The world is facing.
My thing is those clouds going to actually spread, or are they just stuck in one area?
I haven't really talked. It hasn't really been brought up, but there is containment of that. They can't stop it from growing in the country itself, but there are because Saudi Arabia is right next to it. There are ponies and griffins and what have you attempting to stop that from spreading.
Yeah. To put up like cloud barriers and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, several things. It's actually going to be a thing that comes up later on, so I won't go too deep into it, but that is something that is happening.
Man, Pestilence is a bitch.
Yeah, she is.
Well, she's a bitch because she's the only one that's not actually one of the four horsemen. I remember when I first introduced her, I thought everybody was freaking out, like Pestilence isn't one of the things. And I was like, calm down, I know. Yeah, I have the three horsemen, and they each have their own conquest, which would be their fourth horseman, but there is no physical fourth horseman. So sorry. Muckmon, did you have another question?
Not really.
Not really. What about you, Kunamari? I will always say your name wrong. Kanu Mari. I'm sorry.
Kamu.
We'll just call him Calamari.
Calamari. I'll call you Calamari from now on. It'll be easier.
All right, one final.
Why not Katamari?
Kitty Mari.
See, remember when you told me you were going to write this all down?
No. I'm trying to phrase this properly. So, why Shadow? What was your inspiration for Shadow?
Oh, okay. So, phrasing.
I mean, it was so like tragic, and I was like, man, I really feel for this character, and I'm like really glad that Miles decided to adopt her, but I was like, what is, where did this come from?
Shadow purely exists to exploit something about Miles' character, and it's something that is going to come into play later. She also does a lot of other pivotal things mainly in fourth arc, but she was there to show an exploit of Miles. That was there prior, mainly with the CMC, but I wanted someone closer to him that would really push it through. And it plays a little off of his past, about how he was raised as a child, and a little bit of how he sees children as well, and how that affects him.
Yeah, now that you frame it that way, I can see that. It was a really...
Now I think something terrible is going to happen. Now, thank you very much, Roger.
Well, it already did.
Well, several terrible things have already happened to her, so, I'm being really mean to Shadow, but...
No, I mean, what sounds like Shadow's going to do something to Miles, unintentionally or intentionally, mind you, but something...
Oh, that was another correlation between yours and that the diaries story was the adopted daughter character.
Yeah.
Well, that's just a trope that I see a lot, especially in film fiction. Usually it happens with Scootaloo, which actually I did anyway, but yeah, there's a lot of adoption in pony stories. At least that I've seen. It's a pretty common thing.
I'm just glad, she's not the like I love you daddy type character.
Just wait until MLP decides to finally introduce Scootaloo's actual parents and stuff and make her not an orphan. Well, everyone's gonna rage so hard. It's gonna be hilarious.
A lot of people would get really mad. You ruined my little Dashie. No,
my little Scootaloo.
Or Scootaloo, whatever. No, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it brings up a point I have to make, kind of. So you asked about the setting of the story earlier. So part of making that setting was following the canonization of the show. But once I got writing, once I started developing the story, as in punching out chapters and getting deeper into the arcs, I stopped following the canonization of the story of the show. So I actually stopped following it at at the end of season 3. Not to say I won't take influences from it, like using characters or world places or anything like that, but definitely. I lost my train of thought. My sister just entered the room.
Well, we don't see the castle, the friendship table,
Yeah. But I stopped following the story because I realized it's my own story and I should be following that instead.
And it would be really hard to go back and retcon things that happen years prior to the current events of your story.
Yeah. So and that's just I've been writing this for 3 years now. That'd be a lot of retconning. So instead of doing that, I just decided to.
Alternate universe?
Well, yeah, it is technically alternate universe, but it starts in... the more accurate statement would be alternate timeline. But, yeah.
Well, yeah, because once Miles appears, it's pretty much, breaks story canon.
Yeah, basically. There are a few instances where I tried to guess what the show writers would do, and try to play out that.
Yeah, everybody who did that was very upset by certain show decisions, but that's what they get for trying to write the show as their own fiction.
Yeah. I was right about half of them. I'm like,
well,
okay,
good on you.
Yeah, I did it. Pat myself on the back.
Exactly. You should
Copyright
read the mind.
Lawsuit initiates. I'm joking.
That was read the minds of
copyright infringement.
Hasbro executives.
I'm sure that would go over really well. Alrighty, well, I'm gonna cut it. Alrighty, we're gonna end our Q&A session here. So thanks you guys for A, being here, and B, supporting me for doing this. If any of you listening would like to join in or to ask questions on our monthly Q&A, you can go ahead and go to my Patreon. I'm going to have a link for it in the description below, so go ahead and check that out. And like always, Brony on.